Howdy YouTube, it's Chad, the Canadian Introvert, on day 36 of social distancing in Alberta, Canada. I'm sitting on the same picnic table I was sitting my very first vlog I did, except a lot of snow is melted, tons of it. Used to be almost a foot deep here probably 3 weeks ago, I think, and then it was slowly melting. And then Monday it was pretty much all snow everywhere, but very thin, and then once it gets going, it melts quick here. Hopefully that'll be it. I've heard we're getting some really good weather here starting Sunday. Hit double digits for the first time in Celsius, 13 above, I believe. Thought today I would just, since it's +6 today, very cloudy, but I thought I would just tell a couple more stories today. I thought I would do kind of some jobs that I've done in my past. The first one that I can remember, other than a lemonade store, back when you could do that without people losing their crap on you, was, I believe it was the summer of grade 9, and between grade 9 and 10. My second time of grade 9. I failed grade 9 once. I worked on a chicken and pig farm. My dad would drive me. He was a good friend of his growing up, and he would drive me Sunday night, and I would stay at the farm until Friday, and this guy would drive me home. His wife was awesome baker, and we've eight lots, whereas 12-14 hour days working on the pig farm. Chickens were the worst. Had to clean the coop once. First day I did it, I wrapped masks around my face and my shirt around. The smell was too bad. Second day I was just like, I couldn't get too much done because I couldn't stay in there long enough. And he's like, oh, well, let's do this. And he picks the whole coop up. And I'm like, why didn't we do that in the first place? Just makes more sense than me crawling in to a whole winter's worth of hay. That was kind of the first job. He was a mechanic. I'll get into more of stories about him, because him and my dad used to build some cars together, and they built a Corvette Stingray back in the day, a car that I grew up with. Getting more into that as well. This guy was actually a drag racer, built drag racing cars and modified the motors. Like, he was just a great mechanic, I guess. Then I had grade 10 summer and grade 11 summer. I worked in the sewage and water lines. Another friend of my dad's from growing up. My dad got me a lot of the jobs, but he would always say I didn't have to work while going to school, but during summer, and which I think is reasonable now. At the time, not so much. And when I worked on the sewage and water lines, because I was under 18, this company just didn't charge me taxes, because I would get it all back, right? Because I was a student. So they just didn't charge me taxes, and the head people, the guys that were actually laying the pipe down, I was just digging trenches and burying the pipe, a lot of shovel labor. They'd be like, a little exaggeration, because, they were still making a couple thousand more than me, but I was making a week, $1,600 a week at 15, 16. So I was making quite a bit of money right off the start, so that was nice. Even though my dad was more well off, I always say we were still mid-bracket, but high mid-bracket. It was just my company that my dad worked in, the oil fields, and they paid him well, and he was way up there by this time. So yeah, I just, as long as I worked, You know, he taught me to buy my own stuff. I had to buy my own clothes from all the way through high school, or just get whatever regular they got. I got a friend here, Siegel. Sorry, I gotta switch and move. I gotta get a selfie stick, I think it's called. Who knows? So that was kind of through my school, and then after I graduated, probably wasn't too long. I'll get into some more of that, but it was a scuffle with my dad. My mom already passed away 6 months before that, 8 months before that. In January, we graduated. When is it? July, June, end of June. So 6 months. So then my dad ended up getting me and a cousin an apartment because I went to Canadian Tire that he used to work at during summers at school. We went to the kind of same school, and I got a job at Canadian Tire. He used to already work there, so my dad and his dad, I guess, talked and said, hey, we should both get damage deposit on an apartment, set our kids up there, and then they got a job, and then they're off on their own, and that's what they did. One day I was, well, like I said, I'll get more in it, but I was living from friend to friend, and then once my dad calmed down a bit, and, you know, from whatever happened, like I said, I'm not going to talk about it right now, but I will get into it. And I was all of a sudden living in a place working at Canadian Tire, and I worked at a few different Canadian Tires for about 5-7 years. You know, got up to like a supervisor. I think it was a merchandising supervisor is what they called me. And then I just couldn't take it anymore, dealing with people. You know, I was drinking all the time way back then, all the time. Like, stop drinking 45 minutes before I'm going to work at Canadian Tire, so I couldn't do that anymore. And my dad passed away, and I got my inheritance, and I'll get more into that, but I drank my whole inheritance. I bought a brand new truck at the time, but drank and drugs my whole inheritance away. A good friend of my dad's later on, they were kind of in a partner association, and they had and some insurance thing. I might get into it. I'm not going to promote them anymore, any at all. So her husband was a framer, building houses, and he took me in, and they were really religious, and of course I was not so religious, kind of, not that I ain't religious or can't believe there's something else. I just don't believe in organized religion. So I started framing, and I was framing with them for probably 6 years, I believe. I think I would take a couple winters off, and that's what I did through all my construction. I had probably a total of almost 18 years within framing, but within that time, sometimes I'd work a winter, and then the next winter would come up, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not working another winter. Go find a job, work that job until I got sick of, or I was like, holy smokes, God, I'm sick of working for this amount of money. And so I'd go back to framing and do that for another year and a half, 2 years, however long. I've done some hardwood floors within that time. I've done some insulating within that time. Fire stopping, which is just fire caulking and putting in certain items so that pipes will collapse if a fire starts, so that it won't spread between suites and condos. That's, I think, pretty much it. I had 2 shoulder surgeries on my left shoulder, dislocated that first time while I was insulating. I was on some stilts and stepped on some tape or something on the floor, fell through a doorway, and it pulled my arm back and was dislocated. And then it's multiple times after that it dislocated. So I've had one surgery, and then another time when I was framing, just a ladder buckled and had my arm up in the wrong way while I was cutting, and just jerked my shoulder and dislocated. So I had that second dislocation. I think that was probably it for framing. I went through WCB for a while. They sent me to school for a year for upgrading, and then they did what WCB does. Before they told me that they couldn't find a job within my in my pay range, so that they were gonna just offer me a buyout. And then the next day I had a new caseworker, and that was all of a sudden they found this mysterious job that I could do. Ended up being not so bad. I ended up doing a warehouse job. That was probably the last job that I got before I got laid off there a couple of years ago, before I re-hurt my back again. I started in receive and worked my way all the way up to warehouse foreman. You know, they really was starting to screw me over, so I went down into a demotion to just their what was it called, logistics supervisor more, and I just ran the computer, handled all the emails, all the orders, made sure the orders were printed, made sure stuff was on the hotboard. Still pretty much everything that I did, everyone still would take my lead, even though there was a couple people that they hired to replace me, but they just still would come to me. Everyone would come with me. And then they just kept on not giving me any more money like they would promise. I had 2 great ones, and then they started lying to me, and so then there just became that hate, and it came down to where they just offered me a good buyout to leave, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a month off before I start looking for work again. I got up to 3-4 weeks of vacation a year, but when you're like the manager, you only get 1 week off for, I'd still have my work phone with me. And then within that month, 3 weeks later, I believe, or so, 2 weeks, I injured my back again, and without having any coverage, it just took its time for me to rehab and get appointments. Everything is free here in Canada, but it does take some time, and I mean, it's understandable, but it's free. Couldn't go to physio, couldn't go to all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get too much into a sob story right now. That's not what this was about. Just to kind of give you a little bit of history of what I've done, what I've accomplished, and so hopefully everyone's staying safe, healthy. If you like this video, please subscribe, thumbs up, give me a like button. How you can support me is by liking the video, passing it on to others that may want to watch it. The more likes, the more watches, the better off the channel is, and be able to do different things as well. So keep safe and keep inside, and I'll talk to you guys later. Ciao.